Once upon a time, in a quiet little town, there lived an old watchmaker named Mr. Henry. He was known for repairing every kind of clock, from tiny pocket watches to large grandfather clocks. His small workshop was filled with the soothing sound of ticking clocks. Among all the clocks in his shop, there were two that stood side by side. The first clock was brand new. It had a shining wooden frame, polished glass, and perfect hands that never missed a second. It was proud of its accuracy and believed it was the finest clock in the workshop. The second clock was much older. Its wooden case was worn and one of its gears was slightly damaged. Because of that, it lost a few minutes every day. The new clock often laughed at the old one. "Look at you," it would say. "You're always behind. A clock that can't keep perfect time is completely useless." The old clock never argued. It simply stayed silent, even though those words hurt deeply. As the days passed, it began to believe that it truly had no value. One evening, after the workshop had closed, the old clock quietly spoke to the watchmaker. "Master, I'm sorry." The watchmaker looked up in surprise. "Sorry? What for, my old friend?" The clock replied sadly, "Every day I disappoint you. I can't keep perfect time. I make mistakes because of my damaged gear. You work so hard to repair clocks, yet I remain imperfect. I think I'm only taking up space." The watchmaker smiled gently. "My dear friend," he said, "tomorrow I want you to pay close attention. Don't lose hope just yet." The next morning, Mr. Henry carried both clocks to the town square, where he had been asked to display them during the annual festival. As they returned home that evening, he asked both clocks to look carefully around the streets. The old clock noticed something remarkable. People were gathered around a beautiful flower garden near the town hall. Children were laughing, families were taking photographs, and everyone seemed joyful. Confused, the old clock asked, "Master, what does this have to do with me?" The watchmaker smiled. "Do you remember that every afternoon you fall behind by exactly 5 minutes?" "Yes," the clock replied sadly. "Well," said the watchmaker, "because I knew your timing so well, I used you for something special. Every day I rang your chime 5 minutes before the children were supposed to gather in the garden. They always arrived early, giving them extra time to play together before the evening ended." The old clock was speechless. The watchmaker continued, "Those children created friendships, shared laughter, and made beautiful memories because of those extra 5 minutes. Parents thanked me for it many times. What you thought was your greatest weakness became a gift for others." Tears of joy filled the old clock's heart. For the first time, it realized it wasn't broken. It was useful in a different way. The new clock, which had listened to every word, suddenly spoke. Its voice was no longer proud. "Master, I owe my friend an apology." The watchmaker nodded kindly. The new clock turned toward the old one. "I judged you because you weren't like me. I believed being perfect made me more valuable. But today I've learned that perfection isn't the only thing that matters. Your imperfection brought happiness to people in a way I never could. Please forgive me." The old clock smiled warmly. "I forgive you with all my heart. We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." The watchmaker placed a hand on each clock and said, "My dear friends, remember this forever. No one in this world is perfect. Every person has strengths, and every person has weaknesses. Sometimes our greatest gifts are hidden inside the flaws we try so hard to hide." He looked at the new clock. "You are reliable and precise. That is a wonderful gift, and many people depend on it." Then he turned to the old clock. "And you remind us that even when something isn't perfect, it can still make the world a better place. Your small flaw created moments of joy that no perfect clock ever could." He smiled and added, "If both of you were perfect, the children would never have enjoyed those precious extra minutes. If both of you were inaccurate, no one could trust the time. Each of you has a unique purpose. Together, you make life richer." From that day on, the new clock became humble, and the old clock stopped feeling ashamed. They stood side by side in the workshop, not as rivals but as friends. One kept perfect time. The other reminded everyone that even imperfect things can leave a perfect impact. Moral of the story: never judge someone by their weaknesses, because you may not know the beautiful purpose they serve. And never be ashamed of your imperfections. Sometimes the very thing you see as your greatest flaw is the reason you make someone else's life brighter. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be valuable. You only have to use what you have to make the world a little better.